There's a new version of Flydigi's Vader 5 Pro, unofficially named V2. This is the V1, and this is the V2. I know what you're thinking, they look exactly the same. Yes, they do. And they feel and sound almost exactly the same too. And that's because everything that's changed about the two versions is inside. So why did there need to be a V2? Is it worth it over the V1? And how do you know if you're going to get the V2 or the V1? Let's get into all of that. Basically, there were two major issues with the Vader 5 Pro after it officially released. The first one, and the way worse one in my opinion, is that the mechanism inside the V1 that acts as a contact point between the back paddles and the switches was apparently made with some low-grade plastic that would weaken and break after too much stress and overuse. This is the internal mechanism, and it's specifically this section that would break and make the back paddles useless. As you can see, this section is meant to bend so that it can contact and press the tactile switch that's on the board. I'm not even sure why this whole back paddle design is like this in the first place, and why a piece like this is even needed. Couldn't they just design the paddles to be long enough to hit the switches by themselves? This seems overly convoluted, but I don't know how designing these things even work, so maybe I'm the dumb one for even suggesting. Anyways, and by the way, this was actually first discovered on the Apex 5 controller, so I hope there's a V2 for the Apex as well. This was a widespread issue with many posts on Reddit, Discord, and other places documenting the paddles breaking. A Reddit user actually came up with a potential solution to the breaking by adding these little cabinet bumpers on the backside of the paddles, which would prevent the paddles from pressing back too much and causing overstressing of the inner mechanism. This was a good fix and solved the issue for a lot of people, including me, at least so far anyways. But there were still reports from people with broken back paddles even after doing the mod, so it seems like it might have only slowed down the problem but didn't totally solve it. The second issue is much less destructive than the first, but still enough of a problem for a lot of users. Ever since Flydigi introduced their adjustable tension ring system on the Vader 4 Pro, people were wondering why they turned smoothly and didn't have a ratcheting mechanism that would click into each position. This isn't an issue for everyone that owns the Vader 4 and Vader 5, it's never been one for me personally, but I do agree with the people who did have issues with it. Because the rings are smooth, they can have a tendency to loosen over time while you're using the controller, especially if you're pretty aggressive with the sticks, and you use grips like control freaks that can rub against the rings. The loosening of the tension is also exacerbated by the fact that some people had tension rings that were harder to turn and some had rings that were easier. Obviously, the people that got easier to turn rings would encounter the problem more often. Being able to adjust the stick's tension is amazing, but only if they actually stay at the setting you put them on. So anyways, everyone thought that Flydigi would definitely add a ratcheting mech to the rings on their Vader 5 Pro. So when the controller released and it didn't have any sort of locking, people were pretty confused and not happy about that. A couple of months later, Flydigi releases their first Xbox licensed controller, the Vader 5S, and lo and behold, it has the ratcheting mechanism for the tension rings. How could they have it for their lower spec Vader 5S, but not for their Vader 5 Pro? I don't know, but my best theory is that they just didn't have the design completed before the 5 Pro was put into production, and just hope buyers wouldn't notice or care, I guess. Enter the Vader 5 Pro V2. It now has the ratcheting mechanism everyone's been wanting since the Vader 4 Pro, and now also, allegedly, has a fixed back paddle mechanism made with a more robust material, which, according to a Flydigi rep, has well over 6 times the lifespan of the original material, with no reported breaking as of yet. Let's open them up and see what's different. By the way, check out my teardown video of the Vader 5 Pro if you want to know how to do it for yourself. Here are the tension rings, and at first glance nothing looks different from the two versions, but look closer at the front shell and you'll see exactly what is different. Just like with the Vader 5S, there are cutouts in the shell here and here, with a small piece of plastic that sticks out just enough to contact the rings. It should, hopefully, provide just enough resistance that it prevents the rings from loosening on their own, or from intense usage. My Vader 5S hasn't had any tension loosening issues, so take of that what you will. Let's look at the paddle mechanism now. Again, they look almost identical, but you can see that there's changes on the ends where the contact actually happens. Interestingly, the V2 ends are actually thinner than on the V1, and that might cause some concern, but on closer inspection, and actually feeling both versions, the V2 does actually feel stiffer and more strong, I guess. It's not really something that you can see, you'd have to feel it for yourself. I've heard from others that the end pieces are now made of metal. I haven't gotten an answer from Flydigi on what the material is, but I'll update in the comments if and when I do. For now, I can say that even though it's thinner, it does actually feel stronger and stiffer, and we'll know for sure with enough time and use if it's actually fixed. I would suggest that even if you get the V2, I would still do the rubber bumper mod on the backside of the paddles, since there's still too much post travel after the switch has been activated. And one of my theories on why they break is because the paddles add too much stress on the mechanism from excessive post travel. Doing the bumper mod will prevent that extra travel from happening, and presumably cause less stress on the part. Speaking about getting the V2, how do you know if you'll be getting the V2 versus the V1? Well, one guaranteed way would be to order it from Gadget Hyper. According to them, all of their current and future stock of Vader 5 Pros will be V2, and if you're concerned, they will open and inspect it themselves before shipping it to confirm. If you can't buy them from Gadget Hyper, and you prefer to get them from somewhere else like Amazon, the other way to know, without opening up the package, is to check this date here on the side. It's not totally confirmed, but apparently all batches that have been made from April, so 04, and onwards are V2. If you get one from March or 03, it's 50-50 on whether you'll get the V1 or V2, and any month earlier than that is guaranteed to be the V1. I think that about covers everything. As for whether I think it's worth it to get the V2 of the Flydigi Vader 5 Pro, as long as the back paddles are actually fixed, I would say yes. The controller is still great, and still in my top 3 controllers as of right now. Thanks for watching, and until next time.